Hello everyone and welcome to the next in our series of TRSP webinars. My name's Julia Lappin. I'm the Clinical Director for the Tertiary Referral Service for Psychosis. I'm a clinician and researcher with a focus on improving outcomes for people living with psychosis, and I've been working in the field for around 20 years. I'm really delighted that today we've got fellow clinicians coming to speak, and I'll introduce them in due course. But we'd like to start with an acknowledgement of country and of lived experience. So I acknowledge the strength and resilience of Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander people who are the traditional custodians of the diverse countries from which we're joining this meeting. I'm privileged to be calling from the land of the Gadigal people of the Eora Nation. I pay my respects to elders past, present and emerging, and extend that respect to all Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander people present today. I also acknowledge people with lived experience of mental ill health and recovery, and the experience of people who have been carers, families or supporters. So welcome to the Mindgardens Tertiary Referral Service for Psychosis Seminar Series. The TRSP is a New South Wales Health funded statewide service which is hosted by South East Sydney Local Health District. And we're very grateful to CESLED and to New South Wales Health and to the Mindgardens Neuroscience Network for their ongoing support of TRSP. TRSP aims to improve lives of people living with complex psychosis. We do so through the delivery of our clinical service, which welcomes referrals from across the state of anyone living with psychosis who's cared for in New South Wales public mental health services. We also run education and training programs, which aims to develop a community of practice for capacity building in complex psychosis care. And this webinar series is an example of that capacity building. The series is supported by Mindgardens Neuroscience Network, which brings together clinicians, researchers, health service administrators, and people with lived experience to design research and quality improvement projects that match consumers' priorities and make a real difference in people's lives. Our series will run through 2023 monthly, so please look out for emails from our TRSP events, which will detail future webinars, all tailored for clinicians. Before we get started, just a little bit of housekeeping. People in the audience can write questions in the Q&A, but you can't speak or be seen. There will be a simple anonymous poll towards the end of the webinar. Please complete it so that we know how worthwhile the event was. We also appreciate your feedback by email, including topics you'd welcome at future webinars. This event is recorded and we'll distribute a link to the event video within the next 2 weeks to all those who've provided us with an email address. You can opt out of our communication at any time with a return email with unsubscribe in the subject line. And now, without any further delay, I'd like to introduce our 3 speakers for today. I was really inspired to learn of the work that our speakers today have completed. They're all clinicians working in New South Wales Public Mental Health Services, and it's just wonderful to see the work that they've done in developing the resources about which they're going to talk today. So I'll introduce each of them and then I'll hand over to Haylee. So Haylee Zink is an occupational therapist with over 15 years experience working in a variety of community mental health settings. Haylee is currently working as a senior specialist rehab clinician in the North Sydney Local Health District Specialist Rehab Service. Hi, Haylee. We've also got Dr. Stephanie Bradstock, who's worked as a consultant psychiatrist with the Assertive Outreach Team with the Northern Beaches Mental Health Services for over 10 years. And Steph's previously worked with telehealth and online projects such as Accessline, Beyondblue support service, and This Way Up. And Steph has recently commenced a part-time role with PCLI Stage 2 within North Sydney LHD based at Macquarie Hospital. So welcome, Steph. And finally, welcome to Kiko Ranawaki. Kiko's a consumer peer worker providing supervision and education within Northern Sydney LHD. Kiko works at Hornsby Hospital in the adult mental health acute and subacute units and co-facilitates a Hearing Voices recovery support group with the Specialist Rehab Service. So over to you, Haylee.
Okay, hi everyone. So I'm just going to share my screen. Okay, so hopefully everyone can see that. Okay, so we're really excited to be here today to share a brand new resource that we've developed in consultation with consumers. So I just want to start today by acknowledging that I'm joining this webinar from Wallumaddigal land and acknowledge and pay my respects to the traditional custodians of these lands that I am on, and also all the lands that you are joining from across Sydney. So I want to recognise First Nations people's connection to community and country and the way that this is integral to mental health, wellbeing and recovery. I also want to pay my respects to elders, past, present and future, and Aboriginal colleagues that are joining us online today. I also want to acknowledge and recognise those with the lived experience of mental health challenges and recovery, recognising that as we talk about recovery, the elevation of these voices is so crucial and essential. And this resource we are sharing has centred around listening to lived expertise. So where we're going with this webinar, so we're a really passionate group of people who really believe in the Hearing Voices movement. And we've seen how this approach can really transform lives. So in this presentation, we're going to give a bit of an overview of the Hearing Voices movement, as well as our Hearing Voices groups. And then we're going to look at where the idea came from for the online toolkit and give you a bit of a preview of the resources. So I'm going to hand over to Kiko to give some background about the Hearing Voices movement.
Thank you, Haylee. To give you some context, the Hearing Voices movement started in the Netherlands on a TV show that worked with a voice hearer, Patsy Haig, a psychiatrist, Marish Rom, and a researcher, Sandra Escher. Together, they wanted to find out the nature of voice hearing experiences in the general community. The initial findings led to an alternative views around understanding voice hearing experiences from a different perspective, where voice hearing is widely experienced by many people for a variety of reasons across their lifespan. The response from the general public was astounding. Thousands of people responded back to the television program. Research for working with distressing voices was formed from this work. It was discovered that people who hear voices and other phenomena are living in the community, not necessarily diagnosed with a mental health diagnosis such as schizophrenia, and are mentally ill on treatments. The voices don't automatically mean illness, and there are people who hear voices, but they don't necessarily engage with mental health services. So what is the difference between those people diagnosed and treated in the mental health system compared to those who continued without treatment in the community? The answer lies with the level of distress a person experiences with their negative voice hearing and the functional impairment that results from this. People who coped well with their voices were less likely to go to hospital and be medicated. They live normal lives in the community. Marish Rom's research found the key skills, beliefs, and support people to cope with their voices include higher self-esteem, an explanatory framework for the voices, more likely to discuss the voices with others, communicate more often with the voices, build more social and supportive connections, ability to set limits with the voices, ability to listen selectively to the voices, and finally, voices related back to their life experiences.
So with this in mind, we started our Hearing Voices recovery support group, and it's been running for about 10 years with great success. So the group is aimed at voice hearers or those who experience other unusual phenomena. So people may relate to their experiences as either unusual visual or sensory experiences, or perhaps persistent or intrusive thoughts, rather than what is thought of as voice hearing. So the group is founded in the philosophy of the Hearing Voices movement, as Kiko just explained. So this looks at voice hearing as a meaningful experience to be explored, rather than a pathological symptom to be ignored. So the evidence-based strategies covered in the weekly groups help those with voice hearing experiences understand and manage what can be very distressing symptoms. So the group is a space for people to really make sense and meaning of their voices, to have those shared experiences and explore new ways of coping. So it's a 9-week group. It's co-facilitated by clinicians and a peer worker who has their own experience of hearing voices. And so there is really that strong emphasis on peer learning and peer support. And this really shifts the group dynamic from what is one usually of sort of teaching and telling by experts to one that is showing and sharing by voice hearers. So our team run it 4 times a year across 2 sectors at Northern Sydney. And we also have recently an inpatient unit, rehab unit has started it as well, which is really exciting. So we're always looking for ways to improve our Hearing Voices groups. So we gather feedback through reflection activities, as well as an evaluation form at the end of the group. So these are some quotes that we've got up here from some of the evaluation, but the common themes that come out of the data are that participants have gained knowledge and understanding about their voices, that they felt more connected and less alone in their experiences, that they've learned new and different ways of coping, and that they've noticed a change in the way they interact with their voices. So the group content's consistently reviewed with our group participants, and each expert co-facilitator for the group has been someone that's been a participant. And Kiko's now going to share some of her story, as well as some of her experiences of being part of our group.
I will describe my personal journey with you in terms of a short narrative. Behind a person is a story. We all have stories to tell. My story isn't unique. It's one of many. It begins with a traumatized young woman. She's 26 years old, 5 years after her diagnosis with schizophrenia and self-harm. She's trapped, medicated, hospitalized, then medicated over and over. In her grey clouded world, she thinks, I exist, but I don't exist. She's trapped in her overweight body, trapped in a system, listless, angry because she can't get out and find normality. She can't escape. She's scared. There isn't any hope, no future. So as you can see, this graph explains my mental health wellbeing over a 25-year period. From pre-onset at age 15, where I was undiagnosed, but clinically depressed and socially isolated from my peers and family, to first episode psychosis at age 21, following major trauma and recreational drug use. Then we proceed to continual and persistent relapse, leading to a succession of hospitalizations in my 20s and early 30s. This was due to a non-adherence to prescribed drug therapy and not finding the right combinations of medications. I had a persistent mistrust of psychiatry and family intentions that was more acute during relapse. Then we move on to the preparation stages from ages 30 to 35. This is where I started to build capacity. It includes community support from the SRS, Assertive Outreach Team, and case management interventions in a shared community housing environment. I've since transitioned to independent social living and housing, and this has given me more autonomy, confidence, and independence. My family were also healing in our relationships alongside the improvements in my recovery and general well-being. Finally, to recovery from ages 36 to 43. This involves an initial connection to voluntary work and the homeless communities in Sydney, and study and certificate for in community welfare that led to a peer support worker role at Hornsby Hospital and a co-facilitator position with the Hearing Voices group. This was an important stepping stone for me to establish a sense of self-respect.
So Kiko, we're so privileged to have you as part of our Hearing Voices group, and I know our consumers just really see the power of you being in the room and sharing your perspectives. And I'm wondering, when you were part of our Hearing Voices group as a group participant, how did that group make a difference to you?
Thanks, Haylee. For the first time, I knew I wasn't alone. I was fostered and mentored by the group in a woman who was just like me. She heard voices and she wasn't afraid to share her hearing voices experiences in order to help others. I really wanted to learn from her. I felt a really deep connection to the people because they too had mental health conditions. I wasn't alone. There was a sense of authenticity and the relationships we established were real. I was learning from other people's expertise and applying the knowledge in practical ways. The values that we shared brought us closer together as we moved towards building capacity to feel confident and included in the group space. There was a sense of safety within that. We were reclaiming our identity beyond diagnosis, achieving beyond our obstacles, and there was a real sense that we could recover. The promise of recovery was inevitable.
And what was it that you liked about the group, or what sort of made you come back?
I think it was the relationships we have with each other, the solidarity between us, the hopefulness for our recovery really inspired us to learn more about the Hearing Voices movement. For me, I felt like I wanted to connect with others, and for the first time I felt hope because my voice hearing experiences were something meaningful. There was purpose in that experience in itself, and I often felt like that was not accepted in the medical model. I wanted to build a bridge across, to live a life in the community, and that was a very special moment in my life where I could reclaim the things that I'd lost.
And what does it mean to now be co-facilitating the group?
I'm now involved in a passionate team that really cares about getting people back on track. The team supports participants in the group over 9 weeks. We learn skills that strengthen our ability to apply the principles and concepts of the Hearing Voices movement. Everybody is at a different stage of recovery, and this is respected. Clinical expertise adds value to the lived experience of everybody, as it is these key relationships that is essential to supporting recovery. The group creates a foundation for people to gain confidence, to claim control of their recovery journey, to find meaning behind their voice hearing and life experiences.
Lovely. Thanks, Kiko. So I'm now going to hand over to Dr. Stephanie Bradstock. Are you there, Steph?
We can't just hear you, Steph. It was working earlier. Can you just check the volume on your computer? No, we can't hear you. I'm not sure why that's happened.
Shall we keep going, or?
Haylee, can you speak to Steph's slides, or do you want to move forward and then we can come back to Steph's slides?
Yeah, I can.
You're not in the same building?
No.
No.
So I guess, oh, is she on now? No. Yeah, so look, I guess I won't speak too much to this first one. Steph was just going to share her experiences being part of our group as well as a psychiatrist. So I might just skip over to the next section. So I guess what we've worked out as a team. So whilst our Hearing Voices group have so much to offer, we've got the amazing peer support. There can also be significant challenges in attending face-to-face groups. So for some, this may be distressing symptoms that they're experiencing. It could be loud voices, it could be paranoia, it could be social anxiety. And, this can impact on the tolerance that people can have as part of a group, their ability to concentrate in sessions. So, and there's a lot of other factors, I guess, around transport. Recently, it was COVID restrictions, time or work commitments. So, yeah, I guess, and people's different learning styles. So we kind of had this in mind that the groups, we wanted to sort of increase accessibility of our groups.
I'll just check, are you able to hear me now?
We can, yes.
Okay, great. All right. Thanks, Haylee. That was very good of you. I think that maybe if we go back just to that earlier slide, and the one before. So I was just going to say, as a psychiatrist with an Assertive Outreach Team, I was able to sit in on a Hearing Voices group back in 2014, and it was a revelation. In my role supporting community clients with severe mental illness, I'd met many people whose symptoms had not significantly shifted despite pharmacological treatment. The group program was my first real exposure to evidence-based psychological interventions for persistent distressing auditory hallucinations. It was great to learn strategies derived from CBT, acceptance and commitment therapy and mindfulness that could be helpful for persistent distressing symptoms, and to see how consumers could be empowered to help themselves and others. Haylee's talked about some of the barriers, though, for some people in attending groups, and they can really be quite significant. So whilst there's this fantastic offering, not everyone's been able to take it up. And not only is that barriers for individuals attending the groups, but there's also service provision barriers as well. And whilst there's good evidence for the effectiveness of psychological interventions for voice hearing experiences, there can be many challenges in implementing them widely. These can include a lack of expert trained clinicians and a low prioritisation in service delivery models. We conducted a little survey similar to the survey that people have undertaken today, and at our local community mental health service, and 70% of respondents of our clinicians were working frequently with voice hearers, but less than a third felt confident about supporting consumers with these experiences. And so based on that, we decided that we needed to do something about this. Now, over the last 2 decades, there's been a rapid expansion of digital mental health tools being used in assessment, intervention and self-help, with strong evidence they're safe and acceptable and contribute to improved self-management and service delivery. The rise of video and multimedia and the sharing of information and peer stories has also been significant, along with access to the internet and smartphones amongst consumers. The application of digital mental health tools to hallucinations, however, has remained underdeveloped compared to other mental health areas and lags behind in being applied in routine practice. Digital technologies have the potential to overcome some of the barriers people with voice hearing experiences face in accessing quality, effective psychological interventions. This may be via self-guided programs or supporting the delivery of evidence-based treatments by mental health practitioners. They also offer tools for carer or peer support. With this in mind, we looked at how to bridge the gap and expand the reach and accessibility of the Hearing Voices approach, and how to address the barriers and challenges to attending groups. we came up with the idea of developing an online hearing voices resource for consumers, support workers, family and carers. Rather than just publishing the course book online, we decided that short animations might offer information in an entertaining and acceptable mode that would be easy to understand and recall, relatable and amenable to repeated viewing. We needed some funds to bring this to life, so we pitched our idea to a local innovation program within the LHD and received a small grant. And this allowed us to develop the resources with a graphic designer and animation specialist and video editor. It was quite an involved process developing the materials, and I think a key thing is that all stages of project design and development were reviewed by consumers and consumer peer workers with lived experience, and in particular the worksheets, the graphic design was done by someone with lived experience as well. And this was all a key factor that ensured the acceptability and hopefully the success of the final product.
So we want to walk you through, let's talk about Voices online resources. So to start with, we're going to play our introduction video just to give you a bit of an idea of the feel of the online toolkit. And then we'll talk through some more features of what's on the webpage.
Hearing voices when there's no one around can be frightening and distressing. For some people, however, it can be a positive experience or just a regular part of life. If you hear voices, you are not alone. Around 5 to 15% of people will hear voices at some point in their lives. For some of these people, the voices they hear can be critical, mean, and hard to control. They may seek professional help and often receive a diagnosis of mental illness. For others, voices can be encouraging, meaningful, and even comforting. The voices aren't upsetting, and they don't get in the way of them living a meaningful and enjoyable life. Throughout history, many historical figures have described hearing voices. Beethoven, Charles Dickens, Mahatma Gandhi, Albert Einstein, to name a few. Many famous people from today's society have also talked about a voice hearing experience, such as Anthony Hopkins, Lady Gaga, Jennifer Hudson, and Osher Günsberg. Those who have learnt to live alongside their voices have a few things in common. They have a relationship with their voices. They communicate with them, but also set limits and can choose when they listen to them and when they don't. They have positive connections with people around them and feel comfortable talking to others about their voices. This helps them accept their voices, feel more in harmony with them, and spend less time isolating themselves. Keeping a healthy balance and doing the things we love, staying connected to our family and friends, using our coping skills and managing stress, and taking the time to look after our minds and bodies are all important things that can help us to maintain wellness. While it can be hard to change what the voices say to us, there are things we can do to try to reduce the impact they have on our lives. On this webpage, you'll find videos and worksheets which will look at ways we can work on the relationship with our voices so that we feel more comfortable and in control. You will find strategies for coping when the voices become more distressing and be able to explore how our voices bring meaning to our lives or be indicators of how we're feeling. We will discover the many things we can try that can help reduce the impact of our voices and increase our enjoyment of life.
Okay, so hopefully you enjoyed that. So just to speak through our webpage, so this is a landing page, and you can find this on the internet by typing in hearing voices, or at the end we'll be giving a QR code and direct webpage link as well. So the main feature of this online toolkit is the animated videos. So they explore a range of different topics that are covered in our groups. So topics like exploring recovery, various coping skills, and some of the deeper, more therapeutic concepts as well, such as engaging with voices and exploring power dynamics. So alongside each video contains a series of worksheets, which provide, I guess, people the opportunity to explore the concepts covered in the videos in a bit more detail. And these are some examples of what they look like. So they're hopefully fun and engaging. They're consumer friendly and not too clinical. Here are some more examples. So I guess as well to mention that no experience is needed, no knowledge is really needed. You can simply play a video and work through some worksheets. And I guess the aim of it is that these spark conversations, they might lead to some more meaningful discussions, and they kind of lead you through the experience. So another feature on the webpage are the character profiles. So I guess the purpose of these is to introduce the characters in our videos, and they cover a range of ages and genders, different life situations, and a diverse range of hearing voices and coping strategies. And we also have an extensive library. So this has a range of other kind of additional hearing voices resources, general wellbeing resources, there's recovery stories, there's websites from the International Hearing Voices movement, and lots more. And how you use it. So it's free to use. It's available for all clinicians or any supporting workers to use as a therapy tool, or just to open up conversations about people's voices. It also can be used as an individual self-help guide. So voice hearers can use it individually, at their own pace, or a family member or carer can also watch along to kind of further understand the voice hearing experience and, learn helpful ways to support their loved ones. So these resources are also make up part of our Hearing Voices groups. So it can also be used in that context. And we thought we'd just end with playing a couple more videos to give you a sense of a couple of different topics that are explored and to get a bit more of a feel of the online toolkit. So we've got a video on navigating the tough times and the compassionate approach.
Hearing voices is a common experience. You're not alone. And sometimes voices can be helpful and comforting. That's the good news. But it's also common to experience voices that make us feel afraid or angry and can interfere with our quality of life. Now, it can be a relief to know there are many ways to turn down the volume of our voices and to turn up the dial on our relaxation techniques. It may be helpful to take a closer look at our voice hearing experiences so that we better understand what triggers them, what makes them easier or harder to cope with, and what is working to calm things down. Getting through your day can be a little like heading out for a drive. Obstacles or challenges can arise that cause us to feel stressed or overwhelmed. The voices might become louder or more negative, making it harder to cope. Think about a recent voice hearing experience you've had. Were there any triggers for it? Are there any situations that lead to increased stress for you? Common triggers may include crowds, meeting new people, a bad night's sleep, health problems, skipping medications, and alcohol or drug use. Think about what stresses you out. What do your voices react to? Understanding our triggers or roadblocks, we can prepare and work around them rather than getting stuck. When things start to get tough and we're not doing so well, there may be warning signs we can pick up on early. We might notice strong emotions like anger or sadness. or maybe changes in behaviour like isolating ourselves or not caring about things. Think about the warning signs you show when things are going out of balance. Knowing our triggers and noticing our warning signs means we can take action early to restore balance and stay well. This may also lessen the distress caused by our voices. To prepare for the challenges we might face, it can be helpful to pack a toolkit of coping strategies for our road trip. Now, there are some things that may worsen our voice hearing experiences, such as believing voices are powerful, thinking we are weak, isolating ourselves, refusing help, avoidance, or arguing with our voices. We know these don't help, so let's take them all out of our toolkit. And what should we pack instead? Some helpful strategies may include relaxation, comforting and soothing, mindfulness and grounding, positive self-talk and focusing on our strengths, using distractions to shift our attention, and reaching out for support. There are lots of different things we can try. It's important that we use the tools that work for us. It may be helpful to make a list of your top 5 coping strategies and keep it handy for the next time you face a difficult situation, so that we can feel prepared and enjoy the journey.
Throughout this video, we will explore using a compassionate approach towards yourself and your voices. We will also become familiar with our emotional systems so we can become more aware of when we need to soothe our mind and body. Have you ever found that arguing with your voices or trying to ignore them can only make them louder or more intrusive? Many voice hearers find that harnessing a compassionate approach towards their voices makes their relationship with them more harmonious and respectful. This approach involves practicing acceptance of the voice hearing experience and being open and curious about the voice's intention and meaning in our life. When engaging with our voices and practicing self-compassion, it can be helpful to notice our emotional systems, including our threat, drive, and soothing systems. The threat system is responsible for alerting us to potential threats and dangers. It's designed to protect us. However, it can become overactive. When this happens, we can feel unsafe, fearful, or suspicious, which can make it hard for us to be around others or to even leave the house. Signs that our threat system is overactive may include changes in our body, such as tense muscles, restlessness or rapid breathing, shifts in our thoughts or feelings of worry or fear. Or we could notice the voices have become more intense or critical in nature. Our drive system, on the other hand, is what motivates us and is linked with the desire to achieve. But when this system is underactive, we may feel deflated or unmotivated. And when it's overactive, it can lead to stress, self-criticism, or exhaustion. A good way to keep our drive system balanced is to become familiar with our strengths and values. This can help us stay focused on what's most important to us in life. And when the threat and drive systems start to take over or feel out of balance, we can tap into our soothing system. This calms down the threat and drive systems, and this helps us feel safe and more at ease. Activating our soothing system involves harnessing self-compassion and learning what soothes our body and mind. We may need to learn new ways to show ourselves kindness or explore coping skills that help ease distress. This could include engaging in positive or encouraging self-talk, breathing exercises, or exploring activities that have a calming effect on you. Many voice hearers have found that practicing mindfulness and grounding helps them to reduce distress and keeps them feeling safe. Mindfulness is a self-soothe tool that can help us stay in the present and feel more in control when negative thoughts or voices begin to dominate. There are many ways to practice mindfulness. It can be noticing or describing your surroundings, focusing on something constant like your breath, or tapping into your 5 senses. Grounding is another tool we can use to center ourselves when we start to feel overwhelmed or disconnected. It aims to keep our mind and body connected and working together. You could try anchoring yourself in a safe or familiar place and remaining there until your distress is more manageable. You can also try using objects to help ground yourself or to bring a sense of awareness and security. You may even feel the need to use strong sensory input to reconnect with your mind and body, like stomping your feet, holding something cold, or eating something sour. Others have found that engaging with their voices in a compassionate tone can also activate their soothing system and encourage their voices to be less critical. Interacting with voices can be an emotionally exhausting journey, so we need to reach out for support when we need it, prepare to navigate the bumps, harness our compassionate self, and always celebrate the wins.
Okay, so I hope you enjoyed those videos. And just to mention, we have started an evaluation project in partnership with the University of Sydney. So this is a QR code. If you start using the resources, if you have consumers that want to be part of the evaluation project, then yeah, please feel free to add your details to the QR code. And here is our link and QR code. We can send these to you as a PDF document as well. If you want to give them out to consumers or families or put them in the waiting room. And my details are on screen. We're always happy to hear feedback and questions. And yeah, if you're would love to hear if you're using it and how it's going. So yeah, thanks everyone.
Thanks so much, Haylee, Steph and Kiko, for just a wonderful talk and a wonderful introduction to this great suite of resources that you guys have developed. I'm just genuinely blown away by what you guys have achieved, and it's so wonderful to see resources like this accessible and ready to use, ready to go for clinicians who are interested, and also for individuals themselves. And would really like to spend a few minutes now talking to you about how to best use those resources and other questions from the Q&A. But just before we do that, I'll just do a quick bit of publicity for the next talk in the TRSP Webinar Series, where we're delighted to have Prof. Grant Sarah from Inform coming to talk to us about physical health of mental health service users in New South Wales. And that will be taking place on Wednesday, the 6th of September, so just 4 weeks from now. And of course, you'll have information about how to register for that webinar in the email that comes over the next week or two following this one. And I also just want to let you know about the Australian Psychosis Conference, which is being held in Sydney in just a few weeks' time. And there's a lot of really fascinating talks being presented at that 3-day conference. So if you're interested in diverse and holistic approaches to psychosis, please have a look and see if that would be of interest to you. And then I think I've just got one more slide. Yes, this is our email. So if you have any referrals for the tertiary referral service for psychosis, or you'd like to talk about someone that you're working with who maybe you'd welcome a second opinion on, please do get in touch with us via this email. And I think that might be it. Yes, so we'll maybe just stop sharing now, and I will go to the Q&A. But just before I do, Haylee, well, to all of you on the panel, it would just be really helpful for me as a clinician to understand how do you use this in day-to-day practice? Do you tend to sit with someone as a way? I mean, because it could be a really good therapeutic tool. Would you do that over a number of sessions, or would you just show people the resources, or does it depend on how interested or how capable the person is?
Yeah, look, I might start us off, but I think you use it as is natural, I guess, to your session. So I guess my encouragement, first of all, is to already use the skills you have. So, you know, building that rapport first, listening, validating, asking the curious questions, really creating that kind of non-judgmental space. And I guess you're just starting a dialogue with someone. So people might just want to start the conversation. And I guess the whole approach is very gentle and very much guided by the person. So I guess, you know, you might use the resources, for example, if you're first talking to someone, and you might say, would you be interested in learning about another approach to your voice hearing experiences? And you might play an introduction video, for example, and then use, you know, some people use the worksheets, depends on the person, to go through in detail. Other people have it there more as a chance to have some questions and a bit of a, I guess, framework to be working from, I guess, to give some confidence as well and some structure. Yeah, so that would be, and there's a lot of different, like, I guess when you explore the videos, you might pick different ones depending on what people are needing. So we have one, for example, on the big question. So if someone's really at the start of their voice hearing journey, you might play the big questions and then talk about it with someone. So it can be used very flexibly. Yeah, so, but my encouragement is people already have the skills, and it's just opening up those conversations as a starting point and using the online resources as sort of a, to give you that confidence to keep going with those conversations. So yeah.
Thanks, Haylee. Because yes, I mean, because I've got to say, to be honest, you know, I feel that in mental health services in general, we're not having these conversations really often enough. I feel like this should be part of our core approach to supporting people who have these experiences. And I just think it's wonderful that the resources, as well as providing confidence to the individuals themselves, also provides a framework to develop confidence as a practitioner, as a clinician, you know, so that you don't feel that you don't even know where to start. I didn't receive, as part of my training, any exposure to these sort of techniques, and I think that's a real failing. And it's something, of course, that, you know, for people who are interested in the recovery movement and so on, we get exposed to it through seeking that out. I just think it's very, very important for people to understand that there are ways to help people beyond psychopharmacological alone. So look, I'm going to go now to the questions, and it's open, all three of you. I'm really happy whoever wants to answer this one. I just want to say, you know, from the Q&A, lots of people just congratulating you on the resources, the animation, and also Keiko, thanking you for sharing your story, and thank you also from me. It was very touching and very generous of you to share it with us. So Kim Ngo asks, have the resources ever been used in a mental health ward setting, especially for those recovering and becoming more stable? And if so, what reaction does that receive from consumers? You used it in your rehab service?
Yeah, we've actually, sorry, got a bit of echo there. Yeah, Macquarie Inpatient Unit has just started using the resources. So they use it as part of a group, but they break it down into much smaller kind of bite-sized pieces. And they also use it as if people are dropping in as a one-off and not kind of committing to a whole sort of series of videos and worksheets. So it absolutely can be used. I think what I would say, if someone's particularly distressed or really in the acute phase of illness, like all, I guess, parts of learning new skills, I guess, again, you would use your skills around kind of stabilization and grounding. And I guess in the beginning, you might be working more on kind of practical coping skills rather than exploring some of the kind of deeper therapeutic concepts. So yeah, that's what I would say, but Kiko, you might want to add, because you're working on a ward at the moment. So if there's anything you'd like to add.
No, Haylee, you said that really beautifully. The only thing I would add is that I have used some of the materials on a one-on-one, particularly some of the interactive, videos. It's been really well received across our ward with some individuals who do identify with voice hearing or have other phenomena. So yeah. Thanks,
Kiko. Thanks, Haylee. So Jim Tam has asked 2 questions. First of all, at what stage of hearing voices is the person ready to join your group?
The group in particular?
I guess the group, or I guess more, for the rest of the audience to use the resources to do this sort of voice work.
Yeah, look, I would say, so speaking for our group, we have people who it's their very first episode of psychosis. For people that have been in the system we even had an older person's consumer last session. She was 60 and had never heard about this approach. So it's available to everyone and is useful at different stages of people's recovery. Absolutely. So, yeah.
Thanks, Haylee. And Jim also asks, are patients able to do the worksheets entirely on their own?
Yeah, look, they are designed as a self-help. People can sit and do them on their own. I think ideally they're sort of designed to do with a support worker, but they absolutely can be used on their own. We sort of have some information on some of the worksheets which are a bit more complex, like around voice profiling and things. We've actually put a note there saying, look, this is probably better to be discussed with your clinician or support team to do alongside with someone, but the majority of them, yes, people can use on their own.
Great.
Another thing I'd sort of add to that, I think from the online tools for anxiety and depression and other diagnoses, the evidence is that when they're done with a clinician, you get more bang for your buck kind of thing. It makes a lot of sense. So where possible, we'd really encourage people to incorporate them into their work with their treating team.
Yes, and just staying with that point, Steph, there is a question further down the chat about, can support workers facilitate an individual to sort of go through these resources? Do you have experience of that?
Well, look, certainly the tools are designed to be used by support workers, by individuals, carers and families, and also to be viewed outside of sessions, to be used, to make the most of time, and they're available around the clock as well. So we definitely encourage. Your question was about support workers. We definitely encourage them to have a look.
Yes.
They can help with some, perhaps, even homework between sessions.
That's right, and the sort of bridging into day-to-day life as well, if they're there with them.
And it's also actually about the support system understanding and being ready to talk with people about their experiences, and that's part of the power of the approach.
Yes, so in fact, it would be a valuable thing if the support worker would sit and familiarise with the person's experiences. That's great. So lots of positive comments coming through for your work, ladies. Kath Ryan says, great resource, well done. Specifically, if you're using the resources within a group setting, Kath's asking, how would you use it? Would the group watch the video and then you'd have a bit of a facilitated discussion afterwards, or what would you do?
Thanks, Kath. I know Kath very well. So hello out there. So as part of our group program it's a 2-hour group. So what we would normally do is play a video as a sort of introduction to the topic, and then some of the worksheets are incorporated into our manual. So we would then go into kind of deeper concepts over the kind of 2 hours of the group. So yeah, we very much use it as a bit of a snapshot of this is the topic to explore today, and then we go into different activities. So sometimes we use brainstorming, other times we might pull out kind of another recovery story or international kind of voice hearing movement story, things like that. We have articles. So we have extra kind of things as part of the group. But you could also run a group just based on the resources that are already there. So using it, yeah, as a bit of a snapshot in the beginning and working through the worksheets. So yeah.
Wonderful. Thank you, Haylee. And Kath's also asking, you may not have the answer to this yet, but she's asking about the evaluation. And do you know yet, is it more beneficial if people access and complete the videos individually compared to in a group?
Yeah, so that's what we've actually just started. So we've just partnered with the Uni of Sydney this month. So it's all very new and we're just starting that process. So watch this space. I would say there's definitely power in the group because of the peer learning. So I guess these are designed for people who don't have access to a group or are wanting to do some one-on-one work or on their own. But I think the power of the group is you can't kind of compare to that. I think I can see Kiko nodding there, and if there's anything you want to add as well, but yeah.
Kiko, it was very powerful when you talked about how when you first started, you know, there was an older woman who'd had experiences and you sort of were really helped by her ability to talk about her experiences, and that was really powerful for you. And I guess that's one of the things that comes from being in a group.
Yeah, it's that solidarity, it's that genuineness, it's that connection. Sometimes, voice hearing can be a very lonely experience and very socially isolating. It brings people together. It's a safe place where people can explore their voices and other phenomena. So we do invite people to talk about their experiences, and we encourage sharing, but when people feel ready in their recovery. So for me, being a facilitator has really been such a delight in just seeing people kind of move along and process things as the weeks kind of roll by. But yeah, we definitely, part of the value is just being present with somebody and just kind of understanding that they're experts in their own lives and can take back control and ownership in a supported way, in a way that feels natural to them.
Wonderful. Thank you, Kiko.
Just adding to that, sorry. Also, if people want to know more about our Hearing Voices groups, I'm happy to chat to them separately about how to get one started or sharing our resources.
That would be wonderful, Haylee. Yes, yep, that would be great. Just listen, we're going to run out of time. There's so many questions, but this is a good one from James Wu. Working with individuals who have cognitive impairment. Is it possible for people with cognitive impairment to use these resources, and how best to support them with or without support staff?
I mean, it was part of the design, choosing video and the language and concepts and the ability to view something again and again to reinforce it. So definitely we've tried to tailor the resources to a whole range of cognitive capacities or learning styles or whatever else. So we were really trying to add, originally the group was written materials and verbal interaction. So we're just trying to add another element and hopefully, I think the consumers we've had experience with, it's been met really well. So yeah, I think it's give it a go is what I'd say.
Yes,
with your individual clients.
Okay, listen, we've run out of time, everybody. I just want to take a final minute to say a huge, genuine, heartfelt thank you to you all. So to Kiko, to Steph, and to Haylee, thanks so much for sharing your work today. And I just hope news spreads and that your resources can be widely used. So thanks very much. Bye, everyone.
Wonderful. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.